We're getting ready to get started. And I want to welcome everyone to the FOHTA Gallery. If it's your first time here, let me tell you, this is the place to be. I started the gallery in 2007 to house my own calligraphy work, and then God placed on my heart that I needed to open up the gallery to other entrepreneurs. And so since opening, I have had authors, artists, wine tastings, fiber artists, the list goes on. But this is a quaint little place where you can come and showcase your work, your creative work. Today I have Tracy, and she has just written a fabulous book. And I hope most of you have purchased the book. On the walls is my work, just to throw that out there. But yeah, I'm excited that you're all here. If you have any questions about the FOHTA Gallery, let me know. There's an opportunity for other people to come in and showcase their work as well. So without further ado, we're going to let Tracy showcase her book.
First of all, I want to thank each of you all for coming out today. I was just telling Kim, it's a great day to be a Spartan because all of my HBCU NSU family is here today. But as Felicia was saying, I'm Tracy Broady. In social media world and my author world, I go by T.A. Broady. And several reasons for that, but I'll just leave it. That's why mostly it's relating to work. I'm trying to separate my work life from my personal endeavors. But I want to say thank you to my fellow Spartan, Kim, for introducing me to Felicia. I was mentioning to Kim that I wanted to do something, a book signing or something in the Arlington, Shirlington area, because I look at this as being an artsy area, especially when you right down in Shirlington, like by where all the restaurants are. It's just really preppy, and you know, you think of arts when you think about here. So I was looking at something, and so she was telling me about Felicia, and Felicia has just been amazing. She's taught me some things about setting up stuff with PayPal and just a whole lot of different things to make sure everything worked out. The opportunity to come here today, actually right after I met Felicia, she invited me to attend Kyra's event. And let me tell you, I got a new appreciation for quilts. Kim and I came to that, and it was like, oh my gosh, if you have not had a chance to see her quilts, I'm not even sure, where are they now?
You can go to my website, blackthreads.com.
Okay. You would just be in awe over some of the work that she has done. And now, is your work already in the African American History Museum? Or it's on its way?
They recently purchased
Okay,
it.
so her work is actually exhibited in a couple, there's another museum though, right? Okay.
And just so you know, if you want to see her lecture, it's on YouTube. It's a great lecture.
Okay.
Just go to the FOHTA Gallery YouTube channel, and you can see her lecture there.
Yeah. But that was an awesome event. Like I said, new appreciation for quilts. I had no idea. I mean, other than keeping you warm, they actually have allowed me to buy it. I'm like, the one that I have, it's on my bed and it keeps me warm. But yes, she has some really neat pieces in which she has brought the African American history and culture into the quilts. Her quilts exhibit women and different things like that, and I thought that was really neat. And I appreciate you for coming out today, because we actually just met at her quilting event. So yeah, but we're here today. I said I was going to talk a little bit about how I got here, how I actually was able to write my first book. Reaching New Heights, 60 Days of Affirmations. And, kind of talk about how I got to that point, how I came up with the title, but actually how I actually became an author, how I decided to become an author. So you already know I went to Norfolk State, but, writing has always been a great passion for me ever since I can remember. One of the things that I remember growing up was between my mom, my aunt, who was an English teacher, and my best friend, Lisa, her mother, was an English teacher and French teacher. So, speaking correctly, pronunciation, writing, it was instilled in us from, I feel like birth, but maybe not quite that much, but, it has followed me and given me an appreciation for writing and speaking and etc. now. And so, I attended Norfolk State. My major was journalism with a concentration in public relations. And then I also have a master's MS in human resources management from Troy State University. So over the years, I have had the passion for writing. Whenever I would have some sort of work that I needed to work on, my roommates in college, I think initially they thought I was crazy because I would jump up in the middle of the night. When they first saw me doing it, it was kind of like, what are you doing? Later on, they realized, oh, she must be working on something. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I might have a little light on, and I'm writing. So then they think, what are you doing? Because when the thought hit me, I would get up and write it down. I still do that now. I'm up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, wait a minute, let me put this up. And it sounds crazy, but I have my phone beside my bed, and I do all my writing inside of my phone and my notepad. So I go in there and I make my notes. My notepad has so much stuff in it that it's like an explosion of information. So over the years, I'll say probably the last 10 to 12 years, I guess I was in my preparation mode. So when I say preparation, I was preparing for where I am now by so many different aspects of what was happening in my life. I was preparing, I was growing, I was learning new things, I was gaining knowledge. I was dealing with some things personally with within my family. My mother became sick over the last, a few years ago. And I was having to grow up and manage her business, manage my stuff. And then my best friend, she had a cancer diagnosis. So 2016 led us to my mom and her issues and my best friend and her issues. We thought we had kind of moved past that. We thought 2017 was going to become better. But we then discovered it was not as we planned. My best friend's cancer, it came back. And then 2018 kind of led us to more things where my best friend passed in April. And then in June, we found out my mother was in renal failure, and she passed away in October of 2018. So without becoming an emotional mess here, I'm going to move on to the next phase. So after 2018, I realized I don't have anything else left to do now, because I was on the highway all the time going to check on my mom. Every other weekend, I was going back and forth to go and see about her. Or even my best friend, she lived elsewhere because I had moved. Now, I'm like, you're still in the back of my mind every time I think about what is my purpose. So latter part of 2019, she was planning to have this empowerment event. It was a few days after the new year of 2020. So we all know how 2020, or we're starting a new decade. We're thinking 2020, we're gonna do all of this. We're gonna be our best. We're gonna live our best life. We're gonna be our best person. We are going to be it in this new decade. So I said, okay, what am I supposed to be doing at this event? So she says, oh yeah, by the way, I want you to do the opening for me. I'm like, oh, okay. So what am I supposed to talk about? So I talked about preparation. So my opening speech was on preparation, but becoming prepared and how it is uncomfortable. So as you know, when you are moving into your gift or whatever your purpose is, it is definitely an uncomfortable space. Very uncomfortable space. So she put me in a real uncomfortable moment because she told me, you cannot stand behind the podium. So I'm like, first of all, you tell me I got to give a speech, now you tell me I got to stand out in front of all these people. and I don't remember everything I'm supposed to say. So I'm standing there with my iPad in one hand, and I'm thinking, all right, what am I going to do? Well, anyway, I made it through. I made it through, but my thing was preparation and how we move forward. And I was talking about how uncomfortable it is because I had an awakening in around 2012. I had been going through some health issues, and so I had surgery, and I was home for 6 weeks. And I realized while I was home during that 6 weeks that I was broke, literally. I needed to revamp my life, and I had some things I needed to do. So I had to begin making plans, and during those plans, I was selling my house. 2012, if you may or may not recall, everyone was upside down in homes. I was watching the houses on my street going foreclosure literally every day. And I'm like, I'm not giving my house to the bank. We just gonna say it. Let's set that record straight right now. So I had to begin trusting God, really, because it was rough. I met my real estate agent. He came in. He had a whole plan in place. He was the agent. He had a lawyer. He had everyone in place to help me get through this. And when I say I came out, I was a little scarred, but not that bad. And I say that to say I was able to sell my house and everything. I did not owe the bank any money. And my credit score only suffered a little bit. So I would say, and I'll be transparent about this, my credit score probably dropped to about 670. There are people out there right now who don't even have 600 credit score. So I'm like, it wasn't that bad. And then they say, when you do a short sale or whatever, a lot of times you have to wait 5-6 years before you can buy. I purchased a new home after I moved here, 3% interest rate, so it happens. So
That's good.
it happens. That's why I'm like, I have to be transparent on that one. But I say that to say, sometimes you have to move through those uncomfortable spaces in order to get to the next phase. Next thing was I was interested or ready to move on career-wise. And so I'm thinking I'm going to stay where I am. And I was looking at it on a small scale. But God, again, had a different plan for me. He said, nope, Hampton Roads area is not where you're staying. You're moving to the DMV. See, now y'all get to know me. But so he had a bigger plan for me, and I ended up coming here. And I say that to say that moving here was an opportunity to meet and see some different things that I was not going to have an opportunity to see there. We know most of us work in the federal government field, and here is an area where you get to see African American women living and working in career paths as SESs, and you see things that you just would not see in other places. Because trust me, in North Carolina or lower levels of Virginia, different areas of Virginia, you're not going to see the SESs that we see here. So this is like the makings of everything here. So you get to see a lot of different things here. So that helped me to see that there was more out there than what I would have been able to take advantage of before. So as I was saying, 2020, we thought we were going to live our best lives. Wrong answer. We ended up being in a different state, something we had never seen before. We were all at home. We didn't know whether or not we were going to survive. And truthfully, we did not know whether or not we were going to live to make it out of 2020. Mm-hmm. While I was hanging out in 2020, just nothing else to do but either go outside on the patio and walk around or walk around the neighborhood, I was thinking, I was writing, and my dear friend Pedros came up with this special idea for our NSU chapter that we were going to raise some funds and we were going to have a virtual event. Of course, we all know virtual was new, and it was going to be a challenge. We really didn't know how we were going to make it through this. Pedros found a passion of being a videographer and we were able to bring together some musicians and have a battle and just different things for this event. But while we were working on the event, a week before the event was supposed to take place, we had a musician who was supposed to sing. And Paige was talking to her, and she apparently didn't take criticism very well, and she quit. And we had 1 week to figure out what we were going to do. So we were trying to figure out how are we going to work through this. And so I tried to find another singer. And because we were in the 9th hour, literally, we couldn't video the person, and they were either going to have to do it live or they were going to have to do their own video. And finding, knowing that Pedro's didn't like the other video was probably a sign that their video wasn't going to work out either. So I was sitting there and I'm thinking, well, how are we going to do this? We need something to fill in the space where she was going to sing. And so I wrote a poem, and I wasn't sure how it was going to pan out, but it was called My HBCU Matters. And so I shared it with my friend Jean first, and I was like, hey, what does this sound like? She was like, that's pretty good. When did you do that? Oh, about 30 minutes ago. She was like, really? I said, okay, I'm going to share this with Pages. I called Pages. I said, I got something I want to toss off to you. I said, let me share this with you. And I told him, and hey, next thing you know, a port was being born. So, only thing was, I had to do mine live where everybody else was pre-recorded. So I had the opportunity of being live on video with Pedro and Monty that night. And it all panned out. We reached our goal and everything worked out. We ended up being able to accomplish some additional things with that. And moving forward, Monty suggested to me one day, he was like, why don't you write a book about 2020? Okay, so I started working on some stuff, started pulling things together. And if you know about editors, so I had literally pulled together from the beginning of 2020 all the way to the end. So I had something for every month in 2020 and how the year of COVID was going. And so I had met a publisher, and she had someone to edit my book. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the direction she was going in. And so just to give you an example, I was writing, I had a poem in there pertaining to Black love. Black love matters. And what it was about was how growing up, our families, on the weekend, when we would clean up, we would have, your parents would have your music playing. How on the Sundays you would go to grandma's house for Sunday dinner, how when you got in the car to go on the trip, okay, tell me you don't remember this, grandma would have that fried chicken and that white bread and the package, and you would eat it. And so, right, and as you can tell, there's nothing about me that resembles weave, okay? I don't even have any hair now. So she retracted some of my natural stuff to some weave and some wigs, and I'm like, who is she talking about? So, at that point, I am angry, right? I'm like, oh no. So I just threw it on to the side. I'm like, this is not going to work. So I set that down for a period of time. And then I was trying to figure out, okay, so what am I going to do? Am I going to try to repurpose this, or am I going to do something else? So I was talking to a friend of mine, another NSU alumni. His name is Antoine. And we were talking about how I needed to repurpose what I was doing, or what I needed to do. I had like 25 books combined in one. I've got a book that talks about prayers and motivation. I got this, and I have this, and I have this. And he was like, hold up. First of all, you need to separate all this out. You need to break these down into 10 separate books. So once he told me that, I said, okay. I started focusing on the affirmations. So in August of 21, some friends of mine, we all went on a little voyage. We went to Alaska. We took a cruise to Alaska. And during that time, I was in a situation where I was able to just see so much beauty on this trip. First of all, we were in a ship that had this amazing observation area. And so from the observation area, I was able to see sunrises, sunsets, the mountains, the icebergs, you name it, whatever could be seen in Alaska, we could see it from here. And so I had the opportunity to just sit down and write. And so hence I started out, I had 15 affirmations, then I went to 30, then I was at 45, and finally I shut it off at 60 because I'm like, I could be here writing for the next year. Because Pedro said, well, you need to hurry up and put this book out. So I'm like, okay, sir, yes, sir. So I'm like, let me cut it off. So then I'm like, well, everybody has affirmation books, so how do I make this look different? So then I said, well, how about I ask questions and I do something else differently? So as you know in your book, the affirmations, following each of the affirmations, you get to read your daily affirmation, and then following that, you have questions. So you have 3 or 4 questions, and then you have an area where you can journal. So I created that because I wanted you to look at yourself day 1, and then by day 60, you could go back and say, oh, I was here then, on January 1, but 60 days later, I'm here. And so you can kind of see where you are, where you were, and now where you are. With the affirmations, I have covered a variety of different things, just creating your visions, figuring out where you are, what you want to do with your life, what's your purpose, financial stuff. I have some affirmations in the book that are for our kids. They're not too young, 2-3 years old, well, at birth really, to begin affirming with them who they are. And so I have an affirmation in there that people might think, well, what was she going through on this day? And so I talk about addictions. And when I talk about addictions, it's not necessarily drug addictions or alcohol addictions. We have various addictions. Because as you can look at my hips, I got an addiction with food. So we all have addictions that we need to get through. So, you can't always think of an addiction as necessarily a negative thing, but a lot of times they have negative connotations to them. So how did I create the title, Reaching New Heights? So Reaching New Heights, as you can see, it's a mountaintop, right? So on the back of the book, there is, if you look carefully, there's a tram in the corner. And so that tram represents something that I saw in Alaska that I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I need to come up with a title, but I kept playing around with this picture, trying to figure out what I could do with it. So with the tram, it started out at the base of the ground, and then it was going up into the mountains. But on the particular day that I was standing there looking at it, if you know anything about Alaska weather, it's August, it was 32 degrees outside, and it was raining. So it was really dreary, and it was cloudy. So as it was disappearing, as it was going up the mountain, it was disappearing into the top of the mountain. Now, you can't see the mountains here, but let me just describe to you what a mountain in Alaska looks like, or what I equated it to. A tightly woven afro. That's how thick the trees are there. And so as it was going up the mountaintop, it was just disappearing into the fog. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can I incorporate this into it? And I'm like, dang, you're going up your mountain as you are learning, figuring out what you want to do with your purpose or your passion or your goal. You have to reach a different area. You start out at the base, and then as you're moving up, to figure out what you want to do, it's kind of like reaching a new height. So I was like, reaching new heights, that might be something. So I was talking to my coworker, and I said, what do you think about this? So I was telling her, and she was like, hey, that's kind of neat. Hence the title was born. So Reaching New Heights. But it had a lot of meaning behind it, because I know we all have gone through our own trials and our tribulations. We have our things that we don't want to talk about, our insecurities. We all have insecurities. We have had insecurities at some point. I am a victim of that. I've had the insecurities of not knowing who I am. You know, my father was absent in my life, and for so many years, I wasn't sure who I was because he was not there. I know who I am, but I knew that was, you know, that was something that I had to get through. That affects you in a lot of different, you know, ways. I mean, it affects a lot of different aspects of your life. So I arrived here today being able to be the author of this book because I chose to choose moving forward, being positive. I was sharing with Nicole a few minutes ago the bookmark, 6 minutes to start your day on a positive way. And basically it's reading, writing, and journaling. I mean, reading, thinking about what you're saying, and then journaling. And so I wanted to do the journaling aspect because I believe that you can speak it, you can think it, but once you put it on paper, it starts to actually develop a life. And so that's kind of how my story. I want to say thank you to my NSU family. I have my NSU alumni president, Chuck, who is here. My VP. And over the last couple of years of us being the captain of our alumni chapter, we have been each other's left hand and right hand. And Chuck was saying the other day how we tackled the obstacle of becoming the president, vice president, and second vice literally in the middle of COVID. And we've actually accomplished quite a few things during that time span. And we celebrated our 25th anniversary recently. And after going through a lot of different trials and tribulations, Annette and Joyce took over, and we had a successful event. And a beautiful event. And yeah. The night of the event, it's kind of like the day that when everything comes into place, you see the relief coming over your face or over you, period. And the night that I walked into the gala and I saw Annette, she was walking around, she was just as happy, and I'm like, she's like, we have finally got here. Because Lord knows it was so many times that I wanted to say, Lord, I quit. I wanted to quit the chapter. I wanted to quit everything. But we survived, and yeah, we made it a success. So yeah, it's like you have so many aspects of family. And Felicia asked me a few minutes ago about my family coming in. I have family here, but we're all kind of spread out. But I feel like the people that are here are my family. Like, I literally have my neighborhood family. So my neighborhood family consists of 3 houses: my house, Anna's house, and my other neighbor's house, and Rainbow's. And so if there are a lot of other houses in the neighborhood, but our 3 houses are the only houses that really are important. And then I have my NSU family, and I appreciate it. Actually, it's mostly where all y'all are from. And then proxy members, Miss Laverne and Miss Michelle. But I want to thank you all for coming out today to spend a little time with us here at FOHTA and purchasing my first book, my first edition, but there will be many more.
Yes.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Are you going to write any more books?
I am. So I have another one that I was just talking to Nicole about. I'm trying to lay it out now, and it's going to be sort of written on the same format, but it's going to be more on the format of a daily word thing. And I'm trying to decide a name now, and look, I may send y'all a message and say, help me pick out one of these 3 names. But So it's basically a book of it has a daily scripture, and then following it, it's going to have a prayer. But it's got prayers that cover a lot of different things. And so one of the things that people that know me or are in my circle know that they are subject to receive a positive word, a prayer, or something at any given moment. Now, yes, I am up early in the morning, and sometimes they may come in at some strange times, but yeah. So I believe in positivity, but I also believe in the circle that you're in. You have to cover them as well. And so some of the things that I'm working on with the prayer book, some of the things that you pray for. And so it was ironic this morning, I was looking at this prayer that I have journaled into my book. And one part of the prayer was about finding a location and being able to develop a relationship with a person to be able to do events. And I thought about you. And so I laughed. I was like, oh my God. So sometimes you forget about the things that you pray for, but yeah. Yeah, so I was like, how cool. Or just like with my publisher, I prayed about the publisher that I would work with, and they were kind of a dream come true. And so I say that to say, when I met the owner of the publishing company, it's called Write It Out Publishing, and located in Virginia Beach. And when I met Kiani, we just hit it off instantly. And so I went on to the next phase, working with the editor. And when Tamara was editing my book, she came back afterwards and was like, oh my God, I enjoyed reading your work so much, And so, of course, we all know she worked with what I had because she stayed on board. So, but no, she made some minor grammatical changes or, just layout and stuff like that. But yeah, everything, she kept things flowing the way that I was trying to make them flow. I mean, I had a purpose with what I was saying. I didn't want to change. And then when it came to my illustrator, so the question was asked a few minutes ago, why do I have on Virginia State colors? And why are my colors blue and orange? Well, there is actually something behind that. So as you notice, there's golds and there's oranges and things like that in here, but each of the colors represented something. And so when Kiani and I had our first meeting, she was asking me, she was talking to me about different things, about how you choose the colors to represent you. And so she was telling me a story about someone, they had a lot of pink going on with their website and things. She was like, this just doesn't represent you. So as I was sitting there listening to her, she sent me a color wheel, and I started going through things in the color wheel, and I recognized that gold, orange, blue, and they represent things of power, excellence. Like gold stands for excellence. Oranges, illumination. I think I'm illuminating. Blue, powerful, strong force. I'm a strong force to be reckoned with sometimes, So each of the colors, they represented something specifically. So when I was talking to my illustrator, I wrote him a book basically to tell him what I was trying to do, but I sent him pictures, and I shared colors, but I explained why I was choosing each of these colors. And he came back with this design. Of course, I had sent him some pictures, and I sent him the pictures with the tram and all of that. So he was able to incorporate all of that. But he was able to achieve what I wanted by me explaining to him. But without having the knowledge that I had gained on the color scheme, I would not have been able to, tell him exactly what I wanted. So I say that to say, whatever your dreams are, whatever your desires are, your visions, your plans, the things that you have set out for your future, it's all about preparing for that, but just gaining knowledge. Figure out what your passion is, because a lot of times your passion is what your has a lot to do with what your purpose is. And without having each piece laid out for you, you can't really figure out where you're supposed to go on your path. Now, of course, we have a plan. God has another plan for us. So let me just lay that out there, because that is definitely true. So where we may think our plan may be taking us one way, it's actually taking us in a different light or a different way. Like I was saying, Pedro's, he has a passion for this videography thing. I think he's gonna become my next president, sitting on something. Yeah. See how he's dressed today? He doesn't want to accept that. But I think if we keep filling him up with that information, it's bound to happen at some point, I know. But yes, like I was saying, just, know that, and I hope that this will help you, and the writing plan will help you determine what your passion is if you don't know what it is, and help you create your path to figure out what your passion is and to be able to move forward. Yes, ma'am.
Is this Alaska?
No.
These mountains?
No. So it just kind of emulates what they look like, because the mountains there are just like humongous.
But did you tell him you wanted a picture of the mountain? You didn't tell him that?
So I showed him pictures of, so here's what I was showing him. I had pictures of beaches, water, mountains, just a lot of, I did show him some mountains, because I was showing him the picture of the mountain with the tram and all of that. And he pulled together those things. Kind of like with my logo. Mm-hmm. We had already talked about colors. Mm-hmm. And of course I was trying to become an author, so he came up with that design. But what was so funny was, in the back of my head, I was sitting there thinking, oh, I forgot to tell him about I wanted a feather pen. He came back with the design, and I'm like, what do I? Oh, yeah, so he is like an amazing illustrator. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice.
So yes, I laid it out. I put it out there, and he pulled it all together. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, each of those moments were emotional moments, because I'm like, I carried my head. Because the things that I wanted, that although I may not have specified it, to a T, he was able to come back with the designs and lay it out. But now, although these aren't, well, I'm not going to say they aren't mountains in somewhere in Alaska, but no, that's not where they came from per se. But the mountains of Alaska are very vast. And so I guess that was kind of the image that he was working towards.
Tracy, do you see yourself, I see yourself be a motivational speaker, but do you see yourself going on a circuit up here?
So let me just say this. So that's a funny part right there. Motivational speaker. You say, yeah, I don't know, okay? I told Kiana when I got this thing, I'm like, T.A. Broady, published author and motivational speaker. I don't even like talking in front of people. So, I'm working on it though. So I'm working on my next career after retirement. Let's just say that. So yeah, maybe so. I don't know. We'll see.
It's up there, so you gotta do it.
I know, right? I was like, motivational speaker. Okay, if you say so.
We'll start with the kindergartens and affirmations, with them.
Well, right. So, speaking of the kids, so before I leave home today, my grandson comes in and he's giving me some tips on some things. He said, you think you're gonna write any more books? I'm like, yeah, I think so, maybe something. Well, what you gonna write about? I don't know, really. I haven't really decided. I said, I got a few ideas. Well, let me tell you, I think you should write on careers. I said, I should write on careers. Now, I don't know what I'm writing about on the careers, but I'm writing about something about careers. I said, okay, sir, I'll take that in. Now, I got a couple other things I need to tell you. So, I think you need to put your book in the library. Now, I can't promise you the kids in my school are going to read it, but I think you should put it in the library. I'm like, okay. And then I got one more item. I said, what's that? You know, I think you need to make a poster. And on your poster, you tell the people that they need to go here and buy your book. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hear you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your marketing tips. But yes, he's, oh, and he's also security. So he told me he was going to be security, and I need some sunglasses. I need some dark sunglasses. And he's going to have his security shirt on. And he's going to be like, excuse me, celebrity coming in. Back up, celebrity coming in. I said, man, I'm going to have to buy you a shirt. I'm going to have to get you a security shirt because he is taking this thing serious.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Right. Right, but he says security. A celebrity is in our midst. Please stand back. I'm like, yes. So yeah, so the things that he comes up with are comical. And so probably the main two people here who know how he is are Sean and Anna.
Basketball is still first priority.
And that is true. So after basketball, then he's going to protect me. Yeah. After the basketball game is over, then yes, I have to make sure I schedule it around his schedule. But yeah, so.
Well, I wish you the best with your book.
Thank you.
Stocking stuffers, everybody.
Yeah.